like a fat mommy because she's nice and cushiony. Yes, you do. Better to cuddle, better to cuddle. Yay! Hi guys, Juliana here. Welcome to my children's playroom. It is a complete mess in here. You can't see it because I have like the camera, well, you can kind of see it. But I have the angle of the camera so that you can't see the mess as bad, but it is a mess. So I'm gonna have Kevin clean it when he gets home. But this is the best lighting in my house. So I'm gonna film in here. My babies are sleeping right now, so this is the perfect time for me to be able to speak to you guys. I also did my makeup today, which do not do every day, so you're welcome. Very special for you. Ooh, that's some intense highlighter going on there. I'm not a makeup artist, that's my twin sister. But I did stick with the mom bun. So we still have the mom stuff going on. But yeah, thank you for joining me again. I'm gonna talk about something a little more serious today. It is something that I experienced with my pregnancy with my twins, and I knew that I wanted to talk about it. I've known for months and months and months that I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know exactly how to go about doing it, to tell the story of what happened to me or how I felt about what happened to me. But I think that it is so important because I'm gonna be talking about fat phobia in the medical industry, and I have a feeling, in fact, I know that more people go through this than actually talk about it. And I think people are afraid to talk about it because, first of all, it's embarrassing to talk about it. I mean, if you grew up the way that I did, where the worst thing that a person could be is fat, you don't want to talk about a situation where somebody called you fat or somebody made you feel insignificant for being a size. So I think people don't talk about it. I also think people think a doctor knows the most about health. So if they're telling me that something is terribly wrong with me because of my weight, then that must be true. And they don't feel comfortable admitting that maybe that isn't the case. Or maybe they were mistreated. And I'll tell you, I was mistreated in my pregnancy in the very beginning. Because of my size, because of the number on a scale, and nothing more. And it really, really affected the beginning of my pregnancy. And honestly, if I didn't have so many supportive people in my life, it to this day would have affected me and probably would have hurt my pregnancy the way that I was treated. But I took the steps that I needed to take in order to make it right, and ended up in a much better situation. So happy I did. So I hope my story can inspire somebody who might be going through this. You don't have to put up with it. And it's probably not true. You're probably perfectly healthy if people are telling you based on a number on the scale that something is wrong with you and nothing else. They're wrong, because that's not how health works. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So to start out, I'm gonna back up a little bit and talk about my first pregnancy. So I met my husband at a college party when I was 21 years old. And he lived in Baltimore and I lived in Florida. He was visiting Florida. He was visiting friends in Florida. And we just ended up at the same party and met and ended up, there's a lot more to that story. Maybe I'll tell that story someday, but you know, we ended up dating. We were long distance for an entire year. And then we were both graduating college a year later. So we were long distance for a full year. And then that May, when we both graduated, Jeff, my husband, moved to Florida to be with me. And we moved in together. I mean, we'd been together a year, but we hadn't been in the same place for more than maybe 2-3 weeks. our entire relationship, and we moved in together. And we got pregnant less than 3 months later. So listen to your parents, kids. Moving in together, sleeping together, it ends up, babies happen. Not always. Some people are responsible. We were not very responsible. But we ended up pregnant. And I was 22. He was 23, or he might have been just turning 23, not quite 23 yet. And it was a shock. It was a shock. No one in my family had ever done the unwed mother thing. There wasn't a common thing in my family. He was an only child, but also nothing that his parents would have expected. They were older when they had children. So I think everybody was really shocked, including us. And we did have a lot of support. I'm not saying we didn't, but the reactions weren't those ones you see on the YouTube compilations of people telling their families they're pregnant, everyone's screaming and happy. I did have, one of my sisters did have that reaction, and to this day I can't thank her enough because it changed my whole attitude about it. You know, I was so stressed out, but for the most part, it was like a shock value to the fact that I was pregnant with this person who I honestly barely knew at the time, but we stuck it out. We had the baby. Pregnancy was perfect the entire time, no complications whatsoever. I vaginally delivered a 9-pound, 10-ounce baby at 40 weeks plus 2 days. And he was in the NICU for 24 hours because I had an infection because my water had broke and that whole thing. So, but he was fine. I mean, he was healthy. He was just, you know, precautions in the NICU for about 24 hours. But so that pregnancy wasn't what you dream of. It was good. It was not terrible. It wasn't what you always dream of. It wasn't going to my mom and telling her I'm pregnant and her being ecstatic and giving me hugs and crying and telling me how happy she was for me. We got to a point where that was how we all felt, but in the beginning it wasn't, and that was really hard. It was hard to feel like I am this young person who has no idea what I'm doing. Come to find out that every new parent feels that way. But it felt to me like, what am I doing? Like, this is beyond me. How am I gonna be a mother? How am I going to take care of a child? I just graduated college. I still like going out. I still like doing my own thing. I don't have a career yet. Like I'm working my way up from the bottom in this hotel that I was working at, and it just felt so much. And our relationship took a strain because that's a lot to put on a very brand new relationship too. And so there were times where it was just so hard, so hard. Fast forward five years later, my husband and I are together still. We are finally married, and we decide together that we want to try for another baby. And I had been wanting another baby because I always pictured my kids being close in age. So the 5-year age difference was a big deal for me. I mean, that was, to me, it's like, that's a big age difference. You know, I want my kids to want to play together and all that, but we did the right thing and we waited. Not for any other reason other than that's what we needed to do as a couple, was to wait. But we tried for our baby, and it's a totally different experience trying. We were so lucky that it only took us 2 months to get pregnant again. And we hadn't told anybody in fact, we told our families we weren't trying. It was really fun to have that for just us and not have people ask us or wonder what's going on or expect it or anything, because I wanted that surprise. I wanted people to be so happy. And so we didn't tell anybody. Got pregnant. We told our families. It was obviously a different experience in that sense. Most people were happy. But then we went for our first ultrasound and confirmation. And I went to, I knew somebody who worked at this doctor's office, a really good friend of mine. And so I went there. And I was so nervous. I feel like anybody who has gone to that first appointment knows that's a really nerve-wracking appointment because you're about to find out if this is legit. Because at the point where you were at your first appointment, you might have some symptoms, but you really are just kind of like, all I have is this positive pregnancy test from whenever. And I don't know what's happening in there. I don't know if everything's okay. I don't know what we're gonna find. So it's a nerve-wracking appointment to be at in the first place. And we went and we had it. We saw the baby. And it was fine. There was just something off. I felt a little insecure. And the doctor had made a point to let me know that I was gonna have additional ultrasounds and stuff because of my size. And I didn't take that. It was hard to hear, and I was embarrassed because I don't know why. At this point, I could care less. Like after the experience I'd been through, I'm a different person and that would not bother me. But at the time, you know, I had just gone through major weight loss, and then I got married and I gained some weight back during my honeymoon, and then after the honeymoon phase of life, I had gained some weight back. So I was already insecure, so just kind of hearing, and this hadn't happened in my first pregnancy, but hearing that there was gonna be additional stuff that had to be done because of my size, that was hard. And I left feeling a little sad, honestly. And again, I was like, man, I just wanna be happy. I want this to be a happy thing for me. I want to be on cloud 9, and my husband, we walk out of the room, we have our picture of our baby in our hands, and he's giving me kisses and holding my hand, and he's so happy, and he can tell that I'm not. And the whole time I'm like, why can't you just be happy? Like, stop. Get out of your head right now, because you have a baby and you need to be happy about it. And none of this other stuff matters. Your husband's happy, you're happy, your family's happy. Nothing else matters. Why are you letting this ruin this for you? And so I spent 4 weeks being like, I am going to do all the right things. I don't want, I'm not going to gain a ton of weight. I'm not going to blah, 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 blah. Worrying so much about that. So then we think we have one baby in there because the doctor who did our first ultrasound, did a quick in and out, didn't bother to look very much. I mean, I don't know how often or how common it is to miss it at first. She did not catch that I was pregnant with twins. So the 12-week ultrasound comes up. We've already told our whole family that we're pregnant, and like Facebook announcement, the whole 9 yards on Christmas of that year. And I was 11 weeks, I think, when I announced it. And then I went in for my 12-week ultrasound, which is a routine ultrasound where they check for neurotubal. I'm probably saying that wrong. That's really embarrassing. They check for certain things with the fetus to make sure everything's okay. I went by myself because it was going to be really routine. It wasn't like one of those special ultrasounds where you see everything. It was going to be quick. So I went by myself. Again, I'm nervous because I've already been put in this position where the whole time I'm like, please don't say anything about my weight. Please don't say anything about my weight. That's how insecure I've been my whole life about my weight. I mean, this is something that has been ingrained in me from when I was small. It's so sad that I went into a doctor's appointment just not excited to see a baby, not excited to find out if things were okay, not excited that I am so blessed that I'm pregnant for a second time, and it took 2 months. It didn't take any time at all, and I was so worried that somebody was going to mention my weight. Just terrible. But I'm in there by myself. We go in for this ultrasound, and the lady's doing the ultrasound, and there's one, there's the baby on the screen. I'm like, oh, so cute. Oh, da, 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 da. She moves the thing over, and it kind of like comes in and out, and there's the baby again. And I'm like, oh, that's just the baby at a different angle, obviously. I'm no doctor. I don't know how this works. And then she goes back, and she's looking weird. And so I get I'm like, what is happening? There's like a look on her face where something is not right. And she's like, do you see what I see? And then it dawned on me. And I'm like, are there 2 babies in there? And she was like, there's 2 babies in there. And I feel so bad for this sonographer because I was freaking out. I literally was going, oh my God, 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 I wish my husband was here, oh my God, I can't believe this, just over and over again. Because I've mentioned before, my twin sister had just given birth to twins. Like, just given birth, and it was a huge joke in our family that I was gonna have twins too. And so after that first ultrasound, I was like, no. And I was kind of thankful because I didn't know if I wanted to carry two, or, you know, just having to take care of two infants, and we wanted 2 children, so this was gonna make 3. I mean, everything. I'm freaking out. I'm so freaking out. I'm starting to feel excited, but I'm still just like panicky. We go out of the ultrasound, and that's when they take my blood pressure. Right then and there. So my blood pressure was elevated. It was a little elevated. I mean, my face is just, everyone can read that this was such a big shock for me, and that maybe it wasn't like the news I wanted to hear. So they do the blood pressure and all that, and then they take me into a room, and I'm sitting there waiting for this doctor to come in. And I'm freaking out because this is like the most crazy thing, the craziest thing that could have ever happened. I mean, I'm not even processing it. And the doctor comes in, and she is cold. Like, no warm congratulations or anything. So she sits down, she's like, so this is a surprise for you, huh? And I was like, yeah, oh my gosh. Like, you know, I'm kind of laughing, you know, trying to like laugh it off a little bit. I'm like, yeah, it's shocking. Oh my gosh. Can't believe my husband's not here. And she sits down, and again, like, there's nothing warm about this woman at all. It feels like she does not like me from the start. I was like, this woman doesn't like me, and I don't even know what I did to her. So then she goes over my history, the fact that I had a completely healthy pregnancy with my son, no issues whatsoever, no gestational diabetes, no preeclampsia, no hypertension, nothing is wrong during my first pregnancy. We go over how I have no medical issues whatsoever. I've never had diabetes. I have never had high blood pressure. I have never had any issues, any health issues. I've always been a completely healthy person my entire life. So we go over that, and then she just turns to me and goes, we need to talk about how high risk you are. And my heart just sank. Not only are you obese, but now you're pregnant with twins. So that's 2 high risk factors going into this. And you are going to have gestational diabetes, you're going to have preeclampsia, you are going to have preterm labor, you are going, I mean, detail of all the things that are going to go wrong with my pregnancy. Staring at me like she's giving me a death sentence, the way that she's speaking to me. And my heart is just sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking, and my eyes are welling with tears, and I just want to scream at her. What are you doing? I am so freaked out already. Like, I am so scared right now, and I'm by myself. And we just went over my impeccable medical history. How on earth could you sit here and talk to me this way? But I didn't say any of that because I was embarrassed and ashamed. And I felt like she was telling me I didn't deserve to be pregnant or be pregnant with twins. And then she told me that she was going to have to sit down with the doctors in the practice and discuss if they could even take me as a patient. And I just looked at her and I was like, what am I supposed to do if you don't take me as a patient? I'm on my own. I have to go give birth by myself. You're telling me I'm super sick. but you're gonna tell me you're not gonna take care of me. How does that make any sense? And she was like, well, we would help you find somebody who would be better equipped to take care of you. Like, am I like the biggest person who's ever been pregnant? I mean, I felt like I am the biggest person this woman's ever seen. I'm the biggest person that's ever been pregnant, and I'm doomed. I am doomed to have a terrible time, and that I am going to kill these babies. My body is going to kill them. I mean, this entire time she's talking to me like she's disgusted with me. Disgusted. And then she said the thing that will stick with me forever. I mean, all of this will. She was talking about NICUs. And they only have a level 2 NICU. That they're the hospital that these doctors deliver at was only a level 2. And I needed a higher level because I was going to give birth to these babies really, really early, and they were going to be really, really sick, and they needed a better NICU. And she said, I mean, we could keep you. But if you go into labor early, we're going to have to ship you off to a different hospital. She said, ship you off to a different hospital. And that is when I realized this woman didn't think I was a person. I was an animal to her. An animal. She did not view me as a person at all. And I just felt like I couldn't believe this was happening. And how unfair it was that it was happening. That this was supposed to be such a good, happy time for me. And there was no way I was gonna feel happy. And I was my entire pregnancy gonna be worried that something was gonna go wrong. So finally I left. And I feel like dying, honestly. Like, I can't even explain how it feels. To be talked down to, condescending, and be told that you are incapable of doing this. I mean, you're in this situation already. There's nothing we can do about it. You're having babies, but at the same time, that's just terrible. You're terrible and you can't do it. Like, do you want me to abort my babies? Like, what are you trying to tell me? I don't understand. I got in the car and I called my husband, sobbing uncontrollably. And it was a mixture of things. It was the shock of what I was about to tell him, and not knowing how he was going to respond, and also feeling like I can't do this. I had to pause to go get the baby because he woke up. Well, one of them. This is Leo. But I call him, and I'm hysterically crying. And he thinks something's wrong. Like, I lost the baby because I'm crying so hard that I can't even speak. And I'm like, we're having twins. And he's like, why are you crying? This is great. This is what you wanted. Which is funny because lots of people said that to me after I got pregnant with twins. And I don't think I ever expressed like a great amount of desire to have twins. I mean, now I'm happy, obviously, but this is great. And he was like, I'm on my way home. So he left work. My husband's amazing. I mean, he is the most supportive person in the entire world. So I get home, he meets me at home, I show him the ultrasounds, and I tell him what happened, what the doctors had said to me. And he said, you need to get a new OB immediately. Immediately. It's like, I want them to take care of you, and I want them to be honest. I want them to tell you what's up and take care of you properly. But none of that is okay. The way that she spoke to you, how she said it to you, none of it was okay. And he's like, she's lucky I wasn't there because I would not have let her speak to you that way. And so I spent weeks crying. Like, I really, really, really thought that I was not going to be able to carry these babies. I did. I thought, she's a doctor. She's just doing her job. She's just telling me what she has to tell me as my doctor. And finally I was like, I just don't feel right about this. And so many people in my life were like, that's not okay. That's not okay. You don't have to accept that. So I did some research and I found a doctor that I felt more comfortable with, and we met him for the first time at around 15 weeks. And I remember preparing myself. I had a speech ready. I was preparing myself for him to say something about my weight and how high risk I was. And I was like, I'm gonna stop you right there. This is the reason I left my last OB. I don't have anything wrong with me medically at this point, and I understand that my weight could possibly make me higher risk for things. But at this point, there's nothing wrong with me, and there's no indicator in my history that something's going to be wrong. And until there's a medical reason to mention it, I don't want to hear it. Because I'm pregnant, and that's not changing. I don't need to hear how high risk I am until until there's actually an issue that needs to be addressed. And right now there isn't. This man never said anything about my weight. Not once. And I never told him I left my OB because of it. I didn't have to, because it wasn't necessary to talk about my weight. Never once in my entire rest of my pregnancy did this man mention my weight. And I gained a lot of weight. He never once said anything about my weight. He never said I was higher risk. It wasn't necessary because there was nothing wrong with my pregnancy. I did not have gestational diabetes. I did not have high blood pressure. I didn't even go into preterm labor technically with twins. I gave birth at 36 weeks. And that is really good for twins. People of all sizes pregnant with twins can hope and pray for 36 weeks. And yes, I was induced because of some high blood pressure that day. But it's normal with twin pregnancies and pregnancy in general to have high blood pressure. I didn't have it. I had low blood pressure my entire pregnancy until that day. I sat back and I was like, none of what that woman said to me was necessary. And I had convinced myself I was not going to be able to carry these babies. And if I had had that mindset in my head for the rest of my pregnancy and had had somebody drilling into me how I am on the verge of some complication my entire pregnancy, I can only imagine that I would have had self-induced complications because of it. I think the most important thing to talk about in this whole thing too is, regardless of my size, regardless of anyone's size, you can get preeclampsia, you can get gestational diabetes, you can get high blood pressure, you can go into preterm labor. All of that happens to people, pregnant women of all sizes. So even if that had happened to me, to try and tell me it's because of my weight, when there's no way to actually tell that, and there's nothing that could have been done. She wasn't advising me to lose weight ahead of time. She was telling me, you're fat, and you should never have gotten pregnant because this is what's going to happen now. I'm so glad that I switched OBs. It changed my entire pregnancy. I spent the first 15 weeks of my pregnancy crying. After hoping and praying and trying for this baby and then being blessed with twins, I spent the first 15 weeks crying. And it wasn't until I figured out that the way I was being treated was not right that I began to feel better and happy and excited. So that's my story of what happened to me with my pregnancy and how I took charge of it and did what was right for me. And I'm sorry if I got a little choked up. I don't think, since it happened, I haven't really told anyone that story. So I knew I wanted to talk about it. I knew that I wanted to share it. I didn't know on what platform or how or why, but I wanted to. And so that's me, just very raw, telling you what happened. I didn't write it down or really even think about it prior, just the way that I would tell that story to a friend. And so if you have any questions or you want to talk or share or vent or anything like that, I am so open to that, because I just want to be there to support you, because you can do it and you can be fat and healthy. You really can. And I think people will probably laugh at me saying that. There are people who don't believe that, but I am proof of that, because I'm fat and healthy. So proof is in the pudding. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.